Hello
Hey,
and good evening. Hello, Andrew.
how's it going? Thanks for having me on, Vicky. I really appreciate it.
Tonight, guys, tonight we have a live indie game spotlight just for you. Today we have Andrew from Grim Games, who's going to tell us all about Servants of the Dragon Lord. But
I'm
where is
really
my
excited.
co-host? He's not here.
What
He's
happened to
lying.
Dean?
No, he's lying on the couch, feeling very sorry for himself, guys. He's also running tech support for when I will obviously press the wrong button, which has already happened. So hopefully I've got that out the way.
Wow.
Andrew, shall we have a look at who's in the chat before we get stuck in? What do you reckon?
Totally. Yeah. It looks like we got a lot of really cool people out in the space that I've seen all over X. So it's great to have you all here. Really appreciate it.
So we have got. Ooh, well, we would have if I could press buttons properly. We've got Cyrus.
Welcome, Cyrus.
Hello. We've got Dean, who's hanging out to make sure I press all the buttons correctly and to rush upstairs. No, we didn't get a little bell. He's not allowed a bell.
No bells for Dean.
No bells for Dean. Right, we have Lo Eves. Hello, Lo Eves. Lovely to see you.
Hello, hello.
We have Hat Games. Hello.
Welcome, welcome.
And Elven Tower. No,
Welcome,
you're not late. Well, you are like every wizard. You have arrived just at the right time.
Exactly when you intended to, right?
That's my button pressing is always when I intended to. Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's right.
So it's lovely to see you all. And yes, no, Dean is not having a bell. Andrew, you agree with me that Dean is not allowed a bell. He has to sit on the sofa and complain like every other man when he's got man flu. Now, I'd like to point out I had bird flu. Bird flu is known to be dangerous. But, you know, obviously man flu is a... Woo, we've also got Talon Grasp Games in the chat. Now,
welcome.
Before we start, and before Dean actually reminds me, don't forget to like the stream. If you haven't subscribed already. And now I've got that over and done with. Andrew, welcome.
Thanks so much. Really happy to be on. You know, it's really cool to make all these connections here in the indie space. And so we connected a little bit on X. And wow, thanks for bringing me on the channel for your, I believe you said your second indie
live
spotlight
live
stream.
our
That's
second
great.
live one.
Huge honor. Huge honor.
We're really pleased to have you here. Now, I do believe that you have a zine.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm actually on my third official issue of Grim Games zines. You know, like when you hear the term zine, the way I imagine it, it's really just a small magazine. But you know, it historically, you know, back in the 80s, 90s indie music space, you could go and you know, trade CDs, trade cassette tapes, and you know, a band might have a little zine, a little magazine promoting their content. And I guess it sort of evolved into basically meaning anything in terms of indie, small self-published content. So got my latest one cooking up that I'm happy to share with you today, and I'm excited to bring it to your audience.
That sounds absolutely great. And I have to admit, I like the sound of a zine. I think it's nice because it's, to me, it feels as if it's a nice thing you can just pick up in your hands.
Yes.
And you can open, and I could actually put it on my coffee table and pick up and read while I'm waiting for Dean to finish playing whatever game he's playing at the moment.
What I love about
if
it,
he's there on his computery things.
Yeah, absolutely. And one of the things I love about it, you know, some people hand make them. Some people, you know, the whole spectrum of making them by hand with, you know, your hand drawn stuff, sewing them together to, you know, using I used a local printing press for a lot of mine. So, you know, there's a whole spectrum of them.
Fantastic. Yeah. But we're talking about you today, aren't we? And your lovely game. So, Servants of the Dragon Lord. What inspired you to make this game?
Yeah, so this particular issue, Servants of the Dragon Lord, this one you know, what the main inspiration on this particular zine was from an artist that we've probably seen in the space. If you have not, definitely give Alexei Gorbout a follow on Instagram and X. He's one of my favorite, you know, indie artists that does a lot of like retro style fantasy art, and he put out a piece on that really is in homage to Frank Frazetta's Death Dealer. And you know, the image that I have on my front cover, he put out this this piece of like you know, I like a plate mail clad knight with like all these dragon motifs. And when I saw it, I immediately was like, I have got to reach out and see if I can like nail that down with you know, a commercial license, and essentially commission it retroactively and see if I can, you know, nail that for a cover, because I just had all the gears turning on sort of like the light lore around it and the adventure I wanted to build around it. And so so yeah, if, maybe I could show off the cover so
I
people
think I've actually got it here.
Yeah.
I can actually show it in the front of your it was mine.
No
See,
worries.
buttons, guys, buttons. Look at us. Oh, like that.
Oh yes, there's the Kickstarter there.
Can I move it over?
Appreciate that.
No, I can't. I'm going to do it there. There we go. Because that's the cover there, isn't it?
Yeah, on the left-hand side. Yeah, that one right there. It shows so like in Death Dealer, in Frank Frazetta's piece, I think it's from like 1973, like the 1970s, the original painting, and it's got this awesome Death Knight on top of a really intimidating horse. And so I saw this, and it's like I imagine them to be dragoons riding dire boars, and I'm like, all right, I got an adventure for this. So I reached out to Alexei, commissioned the piece for the zine. I got busy writing over the summer. I'm a teacher by trade, and so I just like burned through summer vacation, you know, writing this adventure, and from there, got a bunch of expanded content in terms of player-facing content, a character class, and a whole, you know, 64-page zine developed, and launched a new Kickstarter. And so that's kind of how it came to be.
I have to say, it is beautiful artwork, and I know that you've got it available in either color or black and white. But I love that, because I think artists are inspirational to everybody, and we've got an artist, Lewis, who does amazing work for us, and it looks like you've got some artists that do amazing work for you. But when you see something that sort of triggers that inspiration, it's just phenomenal. So say his name again for everybody.
Yeah, it's Alexei Gorbout. We'll probably maybe add a link to him.
You're gonna pass me a link, aren't you, so I can pass it out?
Yeah, I can get that for you right now if you'd like.
Yeah, let's have it. Just pop it in the private chat, and we're doing it live. We're gonna put it out live, because good artists are always inspirational, and I always think it's great to give them a shout out, because a lot of these artists spend a lot of time bringing our imaginations to life, and I think that's really important. But yeah, I love your cover. I love the color as well you've got on your cover. It's really quite striking.
Yeah, that's one of the things I really love about his work, because I actually I commissioned a custom piece for my previous issue number 2 from Alexei. You know, he has this, again, it feels like 1970s, 1980s, like pulp, you know, comic book type look to it, and I just absolutely love it. So I'm so lucky that I was able to nail him down for these last 2 issues, because it just really, I love that like high contrast, you know, eye-popping visuals. And I understand, like, in this OSR space, you know, a lot of folks are at least in Shadowdark, I can't speak for the entire community, but there's a lot of folks that prefer, you know, that perhaps that black and white purity. But that's why I like to offer both versions, because I love the color, but you know, but I want to make sure both sides of that coin are served, right?
Well, I just think it's fantastic that it sparked your imagination and
Yeah.
actually got you to create the Servants of the Dragon Lord. Now, your zine is built, it works with Shadowdark, is that right?
Yeah, yeah. It's you know, if you know, when Shadowdark first the first Kickstarter hit a couple years ago, I at that particular point in time, I was, you know, exiting the mainstream 5th edition, you know, D&D play after the OGL crisis, and I'm like, I need to find other games to play. And so
Yeah.
I started looking, because I was like, I really only had ever played mainline Dungeons and Dragons, some Star Wars stuff here or there, and some Pathfinder. And I started looking around, and lo and behold, I get served. I think it was a Google ad, or it might have been a Meta ad. I don't remember, but I served a Google ad for Shadowdark. I'm like, this is exactly the kind of, you know, retro feel that I'm looking for, because one of my favorite video games is Darkest Dungeon, right? And it has that really high lethality vibe. It's very much RNG based in terms of your characters. And Shadowdark was, you know, light mattering, was hit a lot of these notes, the gear slot system. And when I saw that game and backed it and started playing it, that is what triggered me from going from like a forever DM in my group to doing that, but also being a creator. I was like, it unlocked some potential, if you will. If we're playing watching Dragon Ball Z, it's like something clicked and going Super Saiyan. And you know, and then I was like, I want to start creating for this system. And so that's kind of what led me to this point. And I just keep, you know, when I have spare time, I keep chugging away at making, you know, zines for it, and a third-party license.
But I think that's really good, because it inspires you. You obviously enjoy the game. And yeah, how many of us exited Wizards around that sort of OGL time? I think they've created an indie industry all by themselves.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. I mean, you know, it's one of these, you know, it's one of these things that, you know, I've been playing video games since I was 4 years old. I've, you know, had loved original Star Wars, loved old school Star Trek, and, you know, so many franchises that I grew up with, that you know, in my opinion, at this point, like the current custodians of those franchises have really done a disservice to a lot of them. And it really pushed me to look beyond that sort of corporate level of gaming and nerddom, and start exploring areas that sort of maintain the sort of culture that I'm interested in. So yeah, it's been great, because I've made a lot of new friends all over the internet, and found a lot of great content outside of Shadowdark that I've been exploring as well. You know, so maybe in the future I'll write for other systems, but, you know, I've really enjoying this lane that I've got found myself in. So
You see, I'm having to restrain myself, going, well, you can always write for Untold Destiny,
yeah,
you know, you can
I have
always
to
have
give
some
it a
zines
try.
there. But because Dean is lurking in the chat, and can I just say, chat, any questions that you've got for Andrew, pop them in. You know me, I will find you and I will put the question out. But Dean says, there we go, I spotted him. Darkest Dungeon is a great game, not my kind of game, but a beautiful game with lovely art. It's brutal and dark. There we go. And it looks as if we've already got a few additional followers for your artist on X already. So that's lovely.
Great.
So there you go. That's good. You can tell him you sent him some followers his way. He'll be over the moon.
I'm sure, you know, where he's got quite a following. So thank you. You know, definitely
every single one counts. Every single follower counts.
And shout out to Lexi for being such a awesome collaborator. And he also recently did my new. I commissioned him to do my new banner art for my social media channels. So If anybody happens to find my pages, you see my banner art, which has got like pig-faced orcs inspired by keeps of on the borderland, like old school edition of D&D, and it's got that classic party, all kind of huddled up fighting orcs. So he just does a really good job.
Fantastic. So go check that out, and don't forget, we'll put all of the links out with this video as well. So we'll pop it onto social media channels. So check them out. So we know that you've used Shadowdark and why you've used that. So what's changes? Have you made any changes to Shadowdark in your zine to sort of support your adventure? Have you had to make any changes?
Well, so as far as changes to the system, I like the core rules of it. I haven't made any alterations. I do like running it personally pretty close to rules as written. But in terms of like adding modifications on top of that, adding additional systems, yeah, absolutely. And that's kind of like one of the core pieces of my most recent work and my prior one. I'm happy to share with you folks if you'd like on screen when you're ready. Yeah, I've got some cool new some rules hacks that we use at my tables, whether it be classes or one of the core ones I'd like to share will be.
Shall I share it on screen now?
Yeah, let's go ahead. Yeah, no problem.
Let's have a look. Here we go.
Sweet.
Look at that.
Awesome.
Dean will be so proud I haven't broken anything with buttons yet.
Nice. We've got, let's see, would you prefer, I think you said in, do you want to keep it in single page view or oh, there you go. Perfect.
There we go. Single page it works better. That's it. Just got to get all the right buttons. And just before we go, Low Eves has said, it's always great when there is an artist you haven't heard of and the art is awesome.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, look at that. That is just sublime. I love the different colors. It's just superb.
It's really nice contrasts, and you're absolutely right about those artists. I love building a network of artists on in terms of my social media. Nice timeline cleanse, as well as like if you're looking to commission people, reaching out, finding all the people that you really like, and hey, hit them up in the DMs. You'll be surprised. You'll be able to get some nice art out of it. So yeah, this is Servants of the Dragon Lord. This again is Alexi's cover art, and he added he put this one out, like I said, and then I got a commercial license for it. Whereas like just a quick plug on my previous work, this is the Color Out of Space with
I love that.
Yeah, this one's great. This is my previous Kickstarter. I wrote a adventure inspired by H.P. Lovecraft's short story of the same name. Right, it's in the public domain, so I took that and ran with it. And this one is also done by Alexi, and it just turned out fantastically. I sent him a stick figure picture of this, and he made it come alive. So the guy's an expert. But yeah, to your question about like modifications to the rules and things that like I've been adding. With this particular zine, I added some additional abilities for the Ranger and Bard, as well as my prior work added some stuff to the Fighter and the Thief. And I'll kind of, just to give some context on that, I'll put the Fighter one up here from my last written work.
I'm going to just interrupt you a second, just to say, so hello, Talon Grasp Games, and very evocative. Great combination of the old school black and white with a vibrant twist.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So the kind of the idea here with these modifications, one of the pieces of the design space I wanted to try to a niche that I wanted to try to fill, at least at my table. So like I said, I'm a high school teacher. I also run I have run some after school games with students, some with their parents and students, high school students. Awesome. And teaching. Shadowdark has been a great way of teaching young people role-playing games. The onboarding process is super quick. From going from teaching through 5e to teaching with Shadowdark, and especially with the pre-gen characters, we get right into gaming. Or if we're rolling up a character, it takes less than 10 minutes and we're going, right? That has been really nice. And if they want to graduate into, wouldn't say graduate, or try other systems, perhaps, they are more than welcome to do so. But what I noticed when you're leveling up your characters, right? I love the rolling on tables for abilities. I think that's really cool. But on the even levels for fighter and thief, they do get an uptick in their backstab. They do get an uptick in their weapon mastery. But largely, you're just rolling for HP, and nothing else is really happening. And I understand, like, the balance wise why that works, and that's great. But while those martial classes are getting that passive uptick in that bonus, the wizard and the priest are getting to choose a new spell every level. And I thought, why not add a little bit in those even level progressions to the fighter and thief, to spice things up a little bit? That's what the kind of the feedback that I saw at my tables. And so, for example, with the fighter, they're not too crazy abilities. They are rolled for. So, RNG gives you some that are more minor versus more major, kind of like with talents. But what I do hear in the suggestions is that if you feel like this is adds too much power to the fighter or the thief, hey, these are good opportunities to make these like learnable techniques from a trainer during downtime, which is supported by the core rules, right? Or if you feel like you want more power, you can let the players choose them, or you can even add more than one on even levels. So that idea is also continued in the current zine here, Servants of the Dragon Lord, with two of my table's favorites of the Ranger and the Bard. We've been running those in our core groups because most of my groups are like 5 or 6 players. We've been running those classes since the beginning because they were, like, I believe, original Kickstarter bonuses, and they've just recently been updated into the Player's Guide to the Western Reaches. And so on those same lines, I added a bunch of additional Ranger remedies and Bardic repertoire to sort of build on those classes. So these have been really fun to give these classes, especially the Bard and the Ranger, who don't get anything generally on even levels, except for maybe the Bard with a little bit of scaling on its Fascinate ability. Gives a little bit more spice and flavor to those.
And also some more awesome artwork there.
You're right. Yeah. So, a good shout out to all of the different contributors, whether they know they're contributing or not. Because, like, for example, you can find a lot of great stock art. Almost everybody knows Dean Spencer, for example. Elvin Tower's in the chat. Shout out to Elvin Tower for I found one of their maps on Drive-Thru RPG for like $3, and I'm like, oh sweet, that's exactly what I'm looking for. So I just snagged that one.
Thank you, Elven Tower Cartography, for your
Yeah.
fantastic maps on. Was it Drive-Thru?
Yeah, I found this one on Drive-Thru, but also check them out on Patreon, because they also have a whole collection there, 300 or so far, of like commercial licensed, freely downloadable content there. So there's lots of great stuff for young indie creators out there that might be on a light budget. You can find a lot of great work, including I believe this one right here is from Brian Syme on Drive-Thru. I found this. It was a stunning piece for the Bard, I'd say.
Well, Elvin Tower says thank you for considering our work. And at this point, I'm going to let you have a quick drink of your coffee. And I'm just going to mention to everybody who is in the chat, if you haven't joined the Indie Game Guild on our Discord server, then why not pop over? Because one of the things we do say is if you join in and you're an artist, we're setting up areas so you can basically plug your work, because lots of us on there are indie game creators. So come and join us. All right. That's great. And thank you, Elven Tower. Sounds like you've had some lovely work. There you go. Look, even gave you time for a cuppa.
Appreciate it. Yeah, Elven Tower looks like they have a Creative Commons license there for commercial use, so that's really cool for them. Thank you so much for providing that. But would you like me to share a little bit more about this, or would you like me to move on to like maybe the classes, or what do you think?
Oh, yeah, let's have a look at the classes, because we've
Okay.
gone through. You've talked about your ranger remedies and your bardic repertoire, which is quite nice. So let's have a look, because I see wild shape forms with your druid class. So let's have a good look at that, shall we?
Absolutely. So a little bit of background on this. So the druid class, one of the so recently the Shadowdark had, well, I guess not so much recently, but it was last year. But the second Kickstarter for Shadowdark, the Player's Guide or Western Reaches setting, right, has both the Player's Guide and the Game Master's Guide that's almost out. And so the Player's Guide was released to backers, and I have a lot of ultra respect for Kelsey's design, right? I mean, obviously, because that's her system is what inspired me to start being a creator, right?
Yeah.
And so, but in the Western Reaches, the druid is like a neutrally aligned wizard and has some spells in that regard, and that's really cool. I like how each of in her vision for the wizard, like the lawful wizard, I believe is a mage or a magus, I forget which. And then a neutral wizard is a druid, and a chaotic wizard is a sorcerer. So you kind of like have those branching paths based upon of the wizard based upon alignment. But one of the things that, like, again, all of my work, or most of my work, I should say, like spawns out of ideas that come from my table, or I see at my table, needs at my table perhaps, or wants, I should say. And one of the common ones is like, I really like to play a druid, a wild shaping druid. I'm like, okay, well, technically there's druids, but they're not wild shaping kind. And so I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to make a classic druid class. Even though so maybe this is not the one in the Western Reaches per se, but I wanted like a classic wild shaping druid, and kind of tapping into the primal energies of the earth. And I thought I could do that while also maintaining, the core Shadowdark design concepts. And one of those being the fact that when you wild shape with this druid, it puts the wild back in the wild shape, because you have
I
to
love
roll.
that statement.
Yeah, absolutely.
So Cyrus says all wizards rule, and you're putting the wild back into wild shape. Tell me more.
Sure. Yeah. By the way, wizards I love wizards. I mean, obviously my my persona character,
favorite.
They're my persona, as you guys see, my hilarious Kickstarter commercial. That's when I embody Grim the Wizard with my funny hat and my fake beard. But yeah, for wild shape here, when you wild shape in this case, you roll based upon your level, you roll on a wild shape forms table. So when you're channeling Terra's energy, and it just like magic and arcane magic in Shadowdark is highly volatile. That's how I envision primal magic in this sense. And so you roll on the D12 table here, and you have a possibility of having a primal surge. And if you roll high, you might roll into the next table up, which is really cool. Or if it's a primal flux, you might roll a table down as you level up. So here's another piece of art from another artist named Per Jonke. I think I pronounced it right, German. And he did a bunch of additional pieces for me, including this wild shaping druid into this cobra, inspired a little bit by Disney's Aladdin. I was like, oh, I like that cobra from Jafar, right? Back in the day. And so yeah, like my players have had a lot of fun with this, because they're fighting the big bad, and the druid is like, all right, I'm gonna do it. Roll on the table. a couple of sessions ago, one of my players rolled like two or three primal surges, and upgraded from, it might have been two. Yeah, they upgraded to a all the way up to a hippopotamus. I think they were level 3. Yeah, and like just tore up the scene. It was hilarious. But at the same time, I don't view it as super overpowered, because it's a wild shape here is a once per rest sort of thing by default, as well as one of the big design flaws, in my opinion, of like 5th edition druids. You could keep hopping in and out of wild shape HP bubbles, and it was insanely OP. And so here, you have to be careful when if you have to be tactful when you plan on wild shaping, because you get knocked out of it, well, you are going back to 0 HP and dying. So you can get that nice HP bump one time if you plan out your wild shape accordingly, and maybe you're like halfway down or something and you do that surge. But also, if you wait too long, you might get somebody might whack you across the head and you're KO'd, and it's too late, right?
And the thing is I know that Dean is going to be sat downstairs going all on about the 5th ed and what happens with Druid. I can almost hear him, apart from I have my headphones on. So it's probably good he's sat down with a nice cup of tea, because he would absolutely agree with you on that. I know so, because we've had the conversations about Druids basically using it as hit point boosts in 5th ed. So
nice.
It's
I think and
a rust monster. You seriously could turn into a rust monster.
Yeah. So let me. I'm so glad you picked up on that. So like one of the things I decided to do with this, right, rather than the druid typically distinctly often you rolling on a bunch of typical nature creatures, right? I like to keep my zines largely harkening back to the core rulebook as much as possible, instead of like pointing to 5 different sources, especially other third-party sources. And I'm like, okay, I'm not beholden to forcing the druid to only always wild shape into elephants and to leopards or to tigers. I'm just going to take I'm going to look through the monster section of the core rulebook. I'm going to find the monsters that correspond with this level. And I don't mind if they are a little bit outside of the norm and they're more of the monstrous monsters, if you will, the fantasy monsters, if you will, because in this universe, those are also wild creatures, right? That are a part of Mother Nature, some of them, right? Unless they're like a magical creation. And so, I was like, I'm going to leave those in there as a part of the possibility. And again, great with the thing with OSR content, it's very clear, take what you like and discard what you don't. You can easily reskin any of these as whatever you want. So like if I happen to roll a crocodile, but I really want to be an alligator for some reason, whatever, the dungeon master can be like, sure, you're an alligator, we're just using that stat block. Or I instead of a panther, I want to be a leopard, or whatever. So you can reskin that if you so desire.
No, I've just got this vision, and I'm really sorry about this, but I just have this vision of turning into this rust monster, and that everyone in the party just running away from me, and me being left alone to fight the big bad. Because I know when I was a fighter, if there was a rust monster, I didn't like them. I was going in the opposite direction.
No, yeah. And what's really cool is like, you
can pat him on his back, and the next thing you know, naked. No, not good.
Yeah. And I thought like it's kind of one of the little pieces of inspiration why I decided this route. Like, I wanted to. I remember the old Final Fantasy games. There's like the Blue Mage, I think, where you learn sort of monster techniques, and also I believe it was the character Gao from Final Fantasy VI who could learn monster techniques. And I'm like, all right, well, I want this druid to be not just I want him to tap into more of those magical beasts, and you can end up with those crazy role play moments where, wait a second, I now have the power to erase and evaporate the big bad's massive magical plate mail. Yes, please. But again, it's RNG that gets you there. So it leads to these incredible rushes of adrenaline when you, just like when you roll critical hits at your table or something, you roll on this and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm now a pterodactyl, and now this is happening or whatever. So it's a lot of fun.
I could just see me going in as a rust monster, and then the fighter defending the other fighter with his big plate mail, because he's like, no, I need him dead, but I want the plate mail. You can't get rid of that. Yeah, Dean's just said it. Destroy all that loot.
No. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. So yeah, that's the basis of the druid, and I'll give you a little bit more. It is a full caster class. I'll go to the I'll skip ahead. So here's another piece of art showing the call lightning spell, which is really cool. But yeah, it's a full caster. I wanted to make sure that I respected the wizard spell list, that the wizard is the only one with a full 12 spells per tier, and kind of think that the druid, at least baseline out of the gate, and I might write expansion content for this later, but out of the gate, the priest is a 6 spells per tier. I thought the druid would fit nicely there. But also has that wild shape ability, gives the druid something else. And so I chose some of my favorite spells and wrote them for Shadowdark, and then added some of my own flavors, and yeah. So you get some of the spells tap into that elementally side of the class. You have being able to speak with animals, speak with plants is a classic, where you can create those fun role-playing moments with things you normally couldn't interact with. I try to, recently, one of the rules at our table is whenever we speak with animals with a new type of creature, we have to come up with a different accent for it. So, that's a fun, we choose a different accent for the species.
I would be rubbish at that. I am
terrible. I know. I'm terrible
accents.
at it for sure, but it is a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun.
It looks like you had some lovely spells there, and I have to watch out, because I can talk spells until I love a good spell.
Sure.
But yes, I'm gonna pick one or two. I'm gonna ask you. Primal Mastery. That sounds interesting.
Yeah, let's do it. We'll jump to Primal Mastery.
Yeah.
I got one more spell piece of art coming in for right there soon, and then Primal Mastery. So this is going to the tier 5 zone. So when you hit tier 5, the spells get crazy, right?
Yeah, totally.
And yeah. And so in this one, I'll just read it for the audience, and then we'll kind of talk about it. So for duration 5 rounds, range self, spell causes you to wild shape and choose the outcome, right? So again, normally it's randomized. In tier 5, if you choose this spell, you've established your dominance on the primal forces, and you choose that outcome. At the start of your turn, you may then kind of animal morph into another one, except again, to keep that balance, you always maintain that first HP. And then you can't use the spell again until you rest. You see that a lot with a lot of the tier 5 spells, a lot of the wizard ones.
That's to balance it, isn't it? To stop them being overpowered.
Right. And you also have some of them have very dramatic and drastic outcomes for failing, like Wish and so on. But yeah, this one really you constantly can morph and change into different creatures. So you at the top of, when you're level 9, level 10 and casting a spell like this, that makes a lot of sense that you could have such dominance with that.
That's cool. I have to say, I love your spells. I love the artwork that's coming throughout the whole, and you look at it, this is, you're on Kickstarter, but you've created it, it's done, it's here. You're just waiting for those final pieces of artwork, which I just think is phenomenal. Yeah, that's great. So have you done anything around, so we've talked a bit about classes, and we've talked about the druid. Is there anything that you've done around race or species or anything like that? Have you made any changes there?
So for ancestries, races, whatever you want to call them, I prefer the old terms myself as well. But
I'm old.
Yeah.
I'm just here and I only know the old terms.
Yeah, exactly. I old school races class, that would that would be that I would like to actually do that at some point. But as far as like additional races, I have not, like on the player side of that, I haven't tapped into that per se
Cool.
just yet. But one of the things with in this particular zine, in terms of the monsters, so, all of well, not all of them, but the dragoons that you see on the front cover, I imagine them to be sort of the spawn of this, dragon. It's a forest dragon out in the wilderness. That's sort of, and its army has just invaded the West. I'll talk about this a little bit more in the adventure here, but these are like not Dragonborn. I'm not actually a big fan of Dragonborn personally, but these are just like they're mixed blood, whether they be human or elves or half elves or whatever, but they're the outcome of dragons, producing a bunch of loyal foot soldiers. And so they all have a little bit of the Dragon Lord's tainted blood. So like the foot soldiers are they just got a little dip. They're more of that human side, let's say, and they are just immune to the poison element that stems from a forest dragon. Whereas higher ranking in the Dragon Lord's horde or minions, the more like the dragon you are, the more you take after in terms of your bloodline. So the dragoons are like his chosen children, and
Nice.
they have they have like a noxious or a poisonous spit attack that prevents you from healing, which is really really painful. And then
yeah, that's gonna hurt. That's
yes.
gonna be and it's DC 12 con or cannot be healed for 1d3 rounds.
Right. You got to be careful with these guys, because
Yeah.
if they start preventing you from healing, this is a 5th level adventure, so you're right in the thick of it in terms of difficulty. And then of course the Dragoon Commander that is featured in here, and what I see is sort of the apex of the bloodline. He manifests with like actual weaker version of the dragon's poison breath attack. So rarely among the Legion do you see that, but he has it. So, and then there's also the daughters of the Dragon Lord. I feature them as also like druid. I try to put the druid class in the adventure as well with some of the enemies here. And so I envision these they're the daughters of the Dragon Lord. They have sort of a unique connection to like primal nature, and that the ancient dragon blood sort of enhances their primal magics. So that's sort of how it uniquely manifests for them. So that's kind of how I dabbled a little bit into additional races, but
I like that.
Well, maybe someday I'll create a half dragon class, but honestly, I think they are dark adapted in my lore, which is a no-go for players. So I decided against it this time.
I have to admit, I love seeing the fact that you do reference back to the core book, because that to me shows a great deal of respect for the core material, and I think that's really nice. So I think that's great, because you can see that you're a fan of Shadowdark. The fact is, you obviously know Shadowdark inside and out, and you've actually leaned on it to find the right things that fit for your adventure. In fact, isn't that what all good GMs do? They go through that, they will pore over those books
Yeah.
And I just love the way that you've referenced it, because that just really comes through. I could see, yeah, that's exactly what I saw from the core rules. And that's great, because it means that you don't have to recreate what has already been done. You're just referencing people to it. And I think that's a lovely touch.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's something I try to do with all of them, because all of my zines, and it's also largely because like it's doing a favor to the game master, and it's something that I wish I saw more of when I buy a piece of content. Just having a reference to the page number so it's easy to find. A lot of people do that, but I like to call back to all the page numbers, so that way you can always find things pretty easily, very quickly at the table.
It's great because before you're actually running your game, you can go through, you can pop your little bookmarks into the relevant pages that you want in the core book, and then it's dead easy, isn't it? And you can just get straight to it. So I think that's lovely. I think it's a great way of making the adventure user-friendly for the GM. Don't forget, guys, if you've got any questions for Andrew, pop them in the chat. Cyrus, I absolutely chuffed to bits that you love UD's Entangle. But today we are focusing on this wonderful Servants of the Dragon Lord. So I noticed a few things when I was having a look at the Kickstarter, and I can see one of them right in front of me here. And then we'll even, I think, if we can have a look at one of the maps that that you got. But carousing outcomes, that sounds interesting. Tell me more.
Yeah, so this is one of, let's see, on this particular version of, I believe this one is blank at the moment. So I'll show you my last one. One of the things I like to, because last couple pages I have to finish is like carousing outcomes and one piece of art to come in from Pierre, and then like a random name generator table, all going to be done very soon.
So is this, so we go, Pierre, come on. Artwork?
No.
Artwork,
he's got plenty of time. I told him, yeah, he's on schedule. Don't worry. The zine has got still 17 days left. He's doing great.
You know what it's like, that I know what it's like for the poor artists, you know, where they're going, have you done it yet? And they're like, yeah, I'm drawing. But I think that's lovely. And
but to your point, right, what I like, the carousing outcomes, what I try to do with each one of my zines is I like to create additional carousing tables, just because if I actually have the core Shadowdark book up as well, and the carousing table from core Shadowdark, fantastic. I love this whole mechanic, the idea that the core gameplay loop of get a bunch of loot, go back to town, party hardy, get wasted, and get more XP for getting wasted. Like, I love that. And so, but I quickly found, like, you can reskin this stuff, that's fine, but I'd love to have more variety of outcomes. The base table gets old pretty quickly if you play a lot of Shadowdark like I do. So I started writing new ones for every zine, every adventure that I write. And usually they're actually all of them are flavored to the zine's adventure. So
fantastic.
This one here, yeah. Go ahead.
Just to interrupt you, because Agile Monk has said it's looking lovely.
Oh, thank you, Agile Monk. Appreciate that.
There you go. And Dean has also said, I'm always asking Vicky when the next artwork has been completed. I'm very impatient. So we absolutely understand. And we also completely and utterly understand why artists need to be left alone to do their work. I'm like, leave him alone. He's busy and working.
Yes, absolutely. You don't want to be too pushy, too quick. You want to make sure they come back for more, right? So
absolutely.
So this particular carousing table, if you look at the core one, they cap at 14 plus, And very early on, because I was using bards at my table for very quickly, and the bard has, whether it's the old version of it or the newer edition of it, the new more balanced version of it, they have the possibility of enhancing or adding to your carousing rolls. And so I wanted to add some additional cap space in case these tables might be used in the early adventure. Maybe you want to use them again later in your campaign, and you want those higher end outcomes. So I added a couple pieces there. I think my very first adventure that I wrote, the Fishmonger's Secret. Let me actually jump to the carousing table. I think I went all the way to 21 on this one, which was kind of ridiculous. But but yeah, I wanted to have, so these have like homages to like the light lore in each of the adventures. And so yeah, the one for the one for the Servants of the Dragon Lord, I actually was right. I'm about halfway done with it as of this morning. I was conjuring up some of those before coming on the show.
So guys, now is your opportunity. Any ideas for the carousing table? Let me see. You go to talk to somebody in the tavern about, I don't know, a game you're writing, and before you know it, you're there for hours and you get too drunk and you have a headache. There we go. There's one.
There's one. And also, by the way, if people are interested, I'm going to do this a bit later on my Kickstarter with the community, but I'll plug it here first. If folks in the want to hit me up to make up a silly kobold name, I'd love to feature your silly kobold name in the NPC generator. If you have a I invent in this adventure, the kobolds act as the Tweedledee and Tweedledums. So if you want to create a cutesy little kobold or like a flunky little kobold, feel free to hit me up with some later, guys. Appreciate it. So yeah,
there we go. Right, silly kobold names, guys. It's your opportunity to get involved. We've got silly kobold names. But I just love the fact that you've got all of these different things, and you've also got your bardic repertoires as well. So you've got ranger remedies. So all of this is linked with your Servants of the Dragon Lord, and this is primarily an adventure, isn't it?
Yeah, so like all the stuff that we've been talking about is like all of that player facing content mostly. I mean, we've started to delve a little bit into a roundabout way the adventure, but how I style all of my zines, like the cover is referenced, like the name of the zine is referenced to the adventure that's featured. And so I'll share a little bit about that. I'll scroll down to let's get to there. So
let's get those GMs excited now. We've got the players want it to be run. Now let's get the GMs all on board.
So one of the silly things that I like to do is add, when you are inside the zine and you get to the title page for the adventure, I like to have the concept art of the cover. And so for example, for Color Out of Space, right? This was the cover art from Alexi. And if I go to the adventure here, you can see his sketch that he did for me.
Nice.
And so I like to include that. And I kind of do this on social media a lot, using like for all of the artists, like here's how it started, here's how it's going. But for this one, and here's Alex, like hand on table sketch of, and he sent it to me.
Brilliant.
And so and I want this section to always be like a little off center, a very like it's like straight from your table into the book. So it's very a real human, it's all a human element, but a real human element right there. And then we go into the actual overview here. And so this all of my adventures are currently very lore light. You can plop them however you see fit into your campaign. Maybe you're running a sandbox, maybe you have an overarching narrative or something, but Each of these are, kind of an ad hoc collection of things that were on my mind. And so when I saw Alexi's, to circle back to the start of our interview, when I saw Alexi's picture, this is what came to my mind. I was sort of the adventure background. The West is overrun. Its guardian castle laid to waste. Scaled warriors pillaged the land, blight and fire in their wake. And now, several months later, the Dragon Lord's messengers finally offer terms. He demands a crippling tribute of fate preferable to utter annihilation. Yet in ruin, there is opportunity. Rumors swirl of a loot-laden warband taking refuge within hidden caves beneath the fallen keep. Soon they return to their master's domain deep within the forest. Treasure-hungry mercenaries and thieves are already plotting to steal back what was taken before it is lost for good. Are you one to seize the plunder for yourself, or will you bring some relief to your village crushed under the tyrant's claw? So
I
that's
love that.
Yeah. So
I'm going to interrupt you briefly,
please.
Because we have in the chat, with your adventures, are they built with the expectation that there's only one locale in the adventure where they could carouse? Or could there be multiple carousing tables that depend on where they go?
That's a great question. So, I write, I guess, like, it would depend, right? So my, my very first adventure, The Fishmonger's Secret, which I made with my family and friends, which was really cool. They did all the artwork and the formatting, and I wrote this adventure. This one, like, carouses in the seaside town of which you helped to save. Last Isle of the Dread Legion, my first official issue, Fishmonger's issue 0, because I made it before I started Grim Games. This one is set in sort of a sword and sorcery environment, and you come back from being on a forgotten island, and could be any sort of pub anywhere seaside. And the Color Out of Space very much is set in like equivalent of an Inuit village up in the very remote reaches of the Arctic. But the dragon, for the servants of the Dragon Lord, this one is any sort of traditional, like, medieval European town or village. You could really place it anywhere there. So to answer your question, it's kind of like, depends. It just depends on kind of the vibe I'm looking for in that particular adventure.
Cool.
Yeah. So yeah, this is a 5th level adventure. Each of the zines, one of them is like cosmic horror, or 2 of them are cosmic horror or eldritch horror settings. One of them sword and sorcery. This one I envision as more of like classic Middle Earth style high fantasy, but honestly, because of like the fact that it's inspired by Frank Frazetta's Death Dealer, like, you could totally plant this in sword and sorcery as well. But it's a time-bound heist, right? So this gives it a little bit of a twist, right? This servants of the Dragon Lord, it's like, think of like the Mongol horde coming through and destroying cities, and now they're in the like occupation and tribute collecting phase, and they're about to leave to go back in the like forest, like I talked about, and you're going to take a crack team of adventurers to sneak in, infiltrate in their camp in these caves, and try to get as much as you can out before the next day where they move on. And so, for the kinds of groups that love to blow all their resources early and then camp, you're going to have a hard time, because they're going to be gone with all the good stuff, right? So you've got to,
it's nice. That gives the adventure momentum. So so a bit of a sneak here, guys. If you're a player, don't forget, you got to keep this moving.
Yeah. Yep. And there will be, if I don't mind spoiling I've already spoiled a bunch of the adventure on stream, so I can share with you some of my favorite parts, but it's up to you. I think you said you wanted me to show you some maps related to it. Is that correct?
Yeah, let's. Can we have a sneak peek of one of the maps?
Yeah. So this is, shout out again to Elvin Tower, who's in the chat, or was in the chat. And I'm gonna switch to 2-page view here. So
Yeah.
I don't know.
You get the full view there, don't you?
Yeah, maybe. I know on stream you might not be able to see the whole thing.
Here we go.
There you go. You
Look,
could do that.
there we go.
Now. And so I found this one on ttrpg, and so in some of my zines, like for example, Last Isle of Dread Legion, I commissioned an artist to do this overworld map. In my Fishmonger Secret, my friend made these maps in a very classic sense. Color Out of Space I used for this and Last Isle of Dread Legion, I used Dungeon Alchemist, which has a great commercial license, very cool. And for this one, I was like, okay, well, I could do that again, but I saw this map online. I'm like, this fits my vision perfectly. I wanted some underground caves under a destroyed keep, and like there's some forgotten like underground temple there from an ancient elven civilization. That's kind of how I spun it. And so over here in like sections 2, 4, and 3, 2 and 3, you've got like the kobolds camp. Number 4 is where the dire boars kind of like they set up sort of like stables, if you will, where they're eating their slop. And then the dragoons separate themselves from the rest of their underlings, and take refuge in this ancient old elven temple. And sort of in my lore around this, you discover, like I think how you have high elves and wood elves and dark elves and so on. I envisioned in this little world that I've created, these old elves are kind of like one of the first species on that evolves to rule the earth and has the blessing of the gods and whatnot. And so you find these ancient chambers here, and so you have to deal with some of the old elven spirits as well. And so there's some cave creepers and old elven magic, and so it's a lot of fun. It's a good map for this purpose. Have a lot of different things going on, and you've got the also included the spoiler-free version that's also very printer friendly in that zine as well. So there you go.
Beautiful.
All right, I'll take it back wherever you'd like. I'll just put it right here for now, and I'll switch it back to single page view. There we go.
There we go. So that looks absolutely fantastic. So, I mean, we've covered an awful lot. Is there any sort of additional loot and stuff people can get that isn't available in the normal game? Is there some cool loot hiding in that there? Have you got anything new and unusual that you would like to talk about?
Sure. So yeah, absolutely. I'll and with that, I'll actually plug another amazing artist. And you know what? Why don't, before I start yapping too much, let me also give you.
There's no such thing as yapping too much.
Absolutely. Let me give you another account to. I'll link this in our chat here as soon as I can. There we go. Perfect. This right here is the artist Big Eggs Black Pen. Wonderful, wonderful name. He goes, his first name's Tay. Big Eggs Black Pen. He is a fantastic artist out of Thailand, and he does like the most amazing ink sketches, ink drawings that I've seen. His turnaround time is insane. This guy, I'll reach out to him. I give him a stick figure drawing. He gives me a sketch, super quick, and then has the final draft done within 24 hours. This guy is a beast. Okay. And I used him for a lot of the illustrations in the Color Out of Space as well. My last zine.
That one's brilliant. It's very reminiscent of Oh, the Screaming Lady one, and that's just it's just fantastic.
Absolutely, you
As
got
I immediately
the catch
as
there.
I immediately forget the artist's name. He's only famous, so showing how much I forget things. But
No
no,
problem.
that's beautiful though.
Yeah,
And that touch of color just really brings it to life, doesn't it?
Yeah, so I commissioned Tay again, and his Big Eggs Black Pen. He actually got a gig in the Player's Guide to the Western Reaches as well. You can actually see his credit right there on this Big Eggs Black Pen. He did the Willow Man in the Player's Guide to the Western Reaches. Which was really cool. I think Kelsey was looking for some last minute artists, and I'm like, hey, you should try out. And she took it, saw that on Twitter and reached out to him, and he got a gig there, which was cool. But
that's cool.
This particular scene answers your question about magic items. So and it's also kind of a, it's kind of a big fu to the player, to be honest, because it's a trap. It's a cursed item. Okay.
No, not cursed items. No, you can't do that.
I'm gonna. This is a huge spoiler for those that care.
If you don't listen, guys, put your fingers in your ears. No spoilers.
No, yeah, it's okay. I've already spoiled it, in a few other places. Like,
you can see how excited you are about this adventure.
Yeah,
you really can.
This one, though. Yeah, it's one of my favorites. So, essentially, in this scene, right, you come to, like, if you're delving through these tunnels, right, if you come to section 8 here, you've gone past like the Direboar stables, or you snuck in around it or something. Right? The kobolds, get fresh water from this underground spring, and they have plastered the walls around it in blood, in Draconic, saying, "Do not look at it. Do not talk to it. Ignore it." Right? Don't do anything. Right? And if you look into the pond, right, deep down below in this natural well, there's this shining ring. And as soon as the players lay his eyes upon it, it speaks to them, saying, oh, please help me, brave adventurers. I've been stuck down here for so long, that kind of thing. It is incredibly charming. It is I'm going
to stop you there just to say the following.
Please.
No, Dean. No, you're not allowed to do it. No. No. Right, now you can continue.
Yes, it's programmed to be the most charming and diplomatic, intelligent item. It's going to weave any tale, any story, to try to convince you, the player, to pick it up. Tease that it is an incredibly powerful ring from a powerful wizard in the past, which is true, but it just strategically leaves out information about what its true intent is. It's actually a sadistic serial killer that will anybody who touches it physically gets hit with a critically successful ray of disintegration, and then it experiences like euphoria and maniacal laughing when you turn to dust from touching it. And so the interesting question is like, how did it get there? And like, you see these tells, not only like the signage there, but there's all this odd ash around this spring, as well as tons of ash at the, settled at the bottom of the wellspring. And, this connects with section 9 of these winding caverns that eventually lead to this open chest. And this, there's this, loose lore here. Ord, the god of magic, has commanded that I seal this abomination away, since I could not destroy it. I've done all I could. I pray it was enough. Well, clearly it wasn't. And inside this winding cave area is tons of ash that represent like eons of different adventurers throughout time that have come and tried to take this ring and have died along the route. So who knows how many centuries it took for various victims along the way to bring the ring from the chest all the way to eventually cast it into that well. But if clever players can figure out a way to retrieve the ring without getting themselves killed, returning it to the chest activating the resilient sphere enchantment and resealing it there, then the god of magic will give the player his blessing. So the arcane eye boon that's featured there is really powerful. A boon. So that right there, combination of the arcane eye, which is in the core rulebook, but again, Arena of Disintegration is it's nothing crazy in terms of like creativity, but this whole like narrative around it, I thought was a lot of fun to explore. So.
So Dean has gone, well, I've already done stuff like this, which is true, and admittedly has resulted in many of our characters losing lots of things, including very similar things with having warnings. Do not pull this lever. Do not look at it.
Don't press the red button.
Don't press the red button. It's something. It's iconic. It's just wonderful. But I like the fact that if the players manage to get the ring, if they manage to get it into the chest, now that's phenomenal, that they will then get this really nice reward.
It's kind of like a reverse looting, right? Like, wait, we're supposed to return it to the chest, right? So if they figure that out, because there's all kinds of clues for that, but this might be a good opportunity to use that 10-foot pole you've not been using for a while, or using some pieces of the environment to think through it. But most people's instinct is to pick up the shiny ring, right?
Yeah, everyone does it.
Yeah,
totally. I do love your approach to that.
Yeah.
So we've touched on the creatures. You've got quite some new creatures there. So I'm going to circle round to the future. I mean, you've now got, this is what, your third zine that you've put out?
Yeah, so this is issue 3. Again, technically I have 4, but it's my first one, Fishmonger's Secret. I had no idea in terms of what it was like. It was a one-off with my friends, and we put it on DriveThruRPG and called it there. And then I was like, ooh, I like this. I want to keep making stuff. And so I created Grim Games and started my first Kickstarter with The Last Isle of the Dread Legion. And you could also get the Fishmonger's Secret in print for the first time with that. And it just kept going from there and doing a little bit more each time. I started Dread Legion in 2025. I think the Kickstarter for that was like September. And so, then I've done basically like 2 a year now. Like this was in May of 2025. Then this was in the fall, and then this was in earlier this year in March or so, and now we're doing another one here. So that's kind of been the projection so far.
Well, that's absolutely great. And Cyrus said, how about a blessed cursed item? So there you go. That's something for you to think about.
Yeah.
And the Agile Monk says, shiny object syndrome.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of us players have. Yeah, we always have this shiny object syndrome. Totally. But that's great, and I love seeing what you're doing here, and you've got a real vision. So between you and me, and just the few people we have listening, what do your students think of what you're doing? Or
so that's a great question. So yeah, I'm not shy about hiding. I don't hide the fact that I do this stuff. In fact, I tell first day when I'm introducing myself, it's like, all the teachers tell a little bit about who they are and how they are. We're not just robots that teach you, here's your education. No, we are living, breathing human beings that have hobbies. And so I share this, and they think it's really cool for that I'm expressing my creativity in this way and doing this side hustle and so on.
That's cool.
And then of course offering like, hey, you want to come play, learn how to play this game? Come to our club hour at the end of the day, here and there and here and there. And yeah, they have a lot of fun with it, especially at the end of the school year. We have about advanced placement exams in the United States, they happen, and around the world for that do it, they happen around like early May, and the school year doesn't end until like early June. So I have to have all my core content done by early May. And so I have like 3 to 4 weeks when these big exams happen. After that I'm like, what do I do with this time? Because we've already finished our finals. So I'm like, I'm going to teach you guys how to play this hobby. And they absolutely love that. So
fantastic.
Yeah,
we can all get behind that.
Yeah.
I think that is an amazing, something that's probably the best use of the school curriculum I can think of.
Yeah. Yes. Hey, so far my school has endorsed it. They haven't told me no. I've been doing it for like 3 or 4 years now. So, but yeah, there's a lot of support for their hobby.
What's not to like with role playing? It teaches you social interaction. It helps with confidence. It helps with maths. You're reading. It's school, but it's fun.
It's great soft skills. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Like, and especially in the era of like most young people are stuck on their scrolling their phones. Like we've our school, like many others, have tried to cut down on kids, cell phone usage. So getting them to have more kinetic activities, giving them to have more talking activities like this has been really good for them.
Yeah, and you can give them, look, we're doing something with paper and pencils, and it's dice. And the minute you give them dice, I mean, I know what I'm like with dice.
They love it. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's just awesome. But this is looking phenomenal. So by the looks of it, we're going to expect more. Now we're going to just have a little look at the Kickstarter.
Very cool. And I just remembered
a haunted pool. A haunted pool.
I remember from Cyrus's comment here about blessed and cursed item. There is a unique one that I know we're gonna take a look at the Kickstarter.
No, it's fine. Let's have a look at this.
Mine. Yeah, so there's this, in a very typical fashion, right? You have like in a lot of lore, how the elves have these necklaces that they cease to age, kind of thing. But my little spin on that, you find these necklaces of immortality. Hey, you have that benefit. While worn, you stop aging. But if you're not an elf and you die while wearing it, you reanimate as a ghost, right? So I thought
that's cool.
That's a fun little twist. So that's like one of the encounters here. These human rulers had been wearing them and had ceased to age, but you actually fight them as ghosts there because of that unknown curse.
So does that mean if you die, you then get to kill the rest of the party?
That is a possibility. So that's fun. Anyway,
Dean,
so yeah.
Hang on, I've got to call my husband out on this. He said, teach them cursive as well. The man who can't write cursive or read my writing, which is cursive.
Yeah, it's a dying art. I had to learn it in elementary school, and now it's rare to even make them handwrite essays anymore in a lot of places, which is crazy. But I've been one of the last holdouts on that, and they always complain. But yeah, like most of the big national tests that they take is all digital in terms of their essay writing. So.
But the thing is, writing it makes you think. You have to put it on the paper. You haven't got that old delete button. And it keeps you brief because you're less likely to waffle because you can't just keep building on it. Yes, you can feel shame and point. No, because writing in cursive is nothing to do with spelling. No, you don't get that. You don't get to play that card. And Cyrus sometimes speaks cursive. There you go.
Nice. But yeah, like in my creative process, I love physically writing. Like I do all of my, for example, like I do all of my rough drafts completely on notepaper first. All my brainstorms, like this was the Den of the Color Out of Space. This page I happened to turn to. So Yeah, I'm a big fan. I wish more were.
Yeah, I think it's, you know, I know that Dean and I are quite funny this way. So I'm very much pen and paper, and Dean is very much he'll type, which is absolutely fine. But it does mean I have notebook after notebook after notebook. So I completely, and there's nothing worse than my fountain pen running out midway.
Yeah, true. I keep a big stock.
Yeah. There's nothing. In fact, Dean got order me some more cartridges. Order me some more cartridges the other day. But we have this lovely, absolutely lovely Kickstarter that I want to bring up here.
Sweet.
And I want to put us over here somewhere. Yes, I will do that. And then I will do that.
Thank you so much.
There we go. Now look at this. So you have made your goal, but the more that we can push this, the more things that you will be able to create. Because
absolutely.
Art is not cheap, guys. I'm gonna. Art is not cheap. We know this. We commission our own work for games. It's not cheap.
Yeah,
art's not cheap. Layout's not cheap. Time. If you put a cost against everyone's time who are doing these things, your time for people who are reading it through for you, stuff like that, your play testers, all of this costs. And I have to say that, yeah, you've made your goal, but come on, guys, we can do better. We can push this up.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
You can see here 64 page zine, and you've seen it today. Fantastic quality. And you can either get the color or you can have black and white. I think you can get both, can't you? You've got
sure, you can always add it as an add-on if you want to, you know.
Yeah.
Any of the, you can customize the order as you see fit, and make it combo as you see fit. Even if you get like the PDFs, like some folks don't want to deal with the shipping, and I totally get that. I always offer not only like the typical PDFs that you would get, but I'll send you the, I send people the ones that are meant to be sent to the printing press with the cut lines. So you can go take it to your local printer, or you can take it to, you know, your favorite printing company and print a bunch of copies for your group if you want to, you know, so.
And cool. I wanted to highlight your Immortals tier. Right, because I think this is really cool having this. So I'm going to read it out to everybody, because you never know, there may be someone interested.
Sure.
So the Immortals tier is for those who just want to thank you and throw some extra money at your small business. All of the rewards of the $70 level, and you can message you to sort of tweak it if anyone wants to. And you submit a name of your choice to be recorded in the special thanks edition. So I think that's lovely. And
yeah, the
free shipping. Shipping, that's quite important. And a special Discord role should you decide to join. So that's lovely. And I just wanted to highlight that, because you get all of those 8 items. It's $150, which I actually think is a bargain for what you're actually getting. And it's a beautiful project that's got lots of heart and soul in it. So I just want to say to everybody out there, if you haven't checked it out, check it out now. I will pop in the link into the channel.
Really
I'm pressing buttons
that.
again. I'm pressing buttons.
Just for everybody out there, like the Immortals tier really is, you know, it in terms of content, you can get all the same stuff from for a cheaper price down earlier, but that Immortals tier is, again, really just more of a, you know, if you got some extra cash, you really like what I happen to be creating, and you want to have, I think the biggest one is the in the special thanks section at the beginning of every zine, your name of choice will live on for the entirety, the immortality of the project until I'm dead, I guess. Yeah, so for example, I'll just have my physical copy right here. so far. We have a couple of my, the Warner family, the Stevens family, and Deadly Torch Adventures. Shout out to them. They are a Shadowdark Twitch channel that were the first ever to play one of my adventures on the internet. Random folks on the other side of the country that were like, hey, I like this, we're gonna play it on stream. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this group is playing a game of mine on stream. And they ended up going with the Immortals tier. They like my stuff so much that so they live on. So if you're into that, you're welcome to jump on in. But again, it's more of the vanity tier. The zines are pretty affordable if you would prefer
they
PDFs.
are, yes.
You can get the PDF for $10, or like I have a combo pack of PDFs, all 4 PDFs that you saw like teased today for $30. So you get one for free if you do that. Or my favorite, of course, I love physical product. Okay.
Yeah, I do too.
And I know like my green screen here is cutting off all the green orcs and the green background of the color out of space here. But I love owning physical media. And so one of the big parts of the reason why I did this project is I wanted to put my stuff out there in physical form. And so the color edition is like, in my mind, the definitive version. But again, I've got the black and white editions are just as good and very serviceable. This is my 3rd Kickstarter now. So, I've fulfilled very quickly 2 others before it. So if you're on the fence, feel free to give me a try, because it's not my first rodeo, and each time it's gotten a little bit bigger of an audience. And so thank you so much for helping to expand that audience a little bit more. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you very much for joining us today. And as we start to wrap up, I just want to tell everybody tomorrow's Destiny's Dispatch, because we're a House of Lurgy, we are actually, for the 3rd week running, and I feel awful saying this because that's how long we've been ill for now. For the 3rd week running, we're going to actually cancel it. But Adventures Call will be held next week, even if we have to prop each other up in the corner. And we will be back 11 UK time, 6 EDT, not tomorrow, but a week tomorrow. We'll be back with Adventures Call. So thank you for sticking with us, and we're sorry that we're so ill. Andrew, thank you for joining us today to tell us all about Servants of the Dark Lord. I think it's fantastic, and I wish you every success. I'm glad that you've already funded, but let's see if we can get that even further. Let's just check when is this going on till? So 16 days left. 16 days left. So there you go, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. And with that, I'm probably going to press a wrong button as I try and, because have we got an outro here? Yes, we have. See you all
next time then. Appreciate it.
And you can come back when you have your next one. Let us know. Absolutely. And we'd love to have you back on. All right.
I'd love to be back. Thank you so much for having me, Vicky. And I hope, Dean, you get better soon and are back up to snuff and all your guys' adventures. Looking forward to the next rodeo. Appreciate it.
All right. Take care, Andrew. Thank you, everybody in the chat. We've loved having you on board. And with that, it's good night.